How is it going, Divas Unleashed Nation? I am your host, Gary Cook, and this is episode 5 of Divas Dive. And today we are talking WWE Women's Tag Division, and also looking at how the current booking and pushing of the women that WWE is pushing could come back to bite them if people start getting presented with other products that highlight women in similar roles a lot better than the WWE is. We got a lot to cover. I think it's all interesting stuff. But I want to start with the tag teams in WWE because it's a mess. A big, big mess. And it's not all the girls' fault. It's not all the women that are competing's fault. A lot of them are being put in situations that they shouldn't be in. And it's really starting to show, both in the singles competition and in the tag division as well. In how they how the WWE is going about this and who they're choosing to highlight over who they could be highlighting, and in a lot of cases should be highlighting. So when we look at the WWE's tag division, you have the Boston Hug Connection, who are the champions. You have the Iconics, who are kind of the premier team on Smackdown. You have the Riot Squad from the Elimination Chamber. You have Fire and Desire from the Elimination Chamber. You have Nya Jackson and Tamina, also from the Elimination Chamber. And now you have Natalia and Beth Phoenix. That's your main roster tag division. 6 teams. If you go down to the NXT level, you have Sky Pirates as well, which boosts you up to 7 teams. So it's not a big division, but it is a very, very, very weak division. Bayley and Sasha are not the strongest workers when it comes to their in-ring abilities, their promo skills, and just their overall package. The Iconics are a high mid-card team if they were allowed to groom properly. I don't buy the whole Iconics have no ring skills. They were both trained by Lance Storm, came out of his school, and I have a hard time believing that he would be as supportive of them if they and helping to push them out there to the WWE if he didn't feel they had the chops in the ring to do it. He doesn't seem like the type to do that. And I mean, the matches I've seen of them before the WWE even, they've both had very good matches out there on the indies coming up. It's just, I think a lot of it is they haven't been given the chance to shine. They've been booked poorly. And we haven't gotten to see them hit that high mid-card, low main event level. Not main event level, but low upper card level that I feel they belong in. And we got to see glimpses of it at the Elimination Chamber. And we got to see glimpses of what they could be this week on SmackDown, but not enough yet to really rehabilitate them in the eyes of the majority of the universe. Riot Squad. We got to see how amazing Sarah and Liv can be as a tag team at Elimination Chamber. And what have they done since? They have been beat up by Ronda Rousey. Beat up by Ronda Rousey. Oh yeah. Beat up by Ronda Rousey. And that's it. Great way to build up tag teams when they can pretty much just get beat up by one woman the entire time. After an amazing showing for the initial tag team championship belt. 2 thumbs up, WWE. You're doing good. Fire and Desire. They showed a ton of heart. They showed what they could do in the ring at Elimination Chamber. That was the first time we really got to see them really excel. But in amazing WWE booking strategy, it looks like they are planning to break up the tag team that went start to finish with Bayley and Sasha. The team that nearly beat their champions and everybody was starting to get behind, that was being seen as the biggest legitimate threat to the Boston Hug connection, are now basically no longer together. So that kind of removes a tag team. So it puts the main roster down to 5, 6 if you count NXT. So you're not doing much to grow the division here. Then we have Nya Jax, and Tamina. Yeah, they belong nowhere near the tag team titles. They are feeder talent with a good enough name to put the better women over. Honestly, they are curtain jerkers at best. They should not be anywhere near main events. They should not be anywhere near title matches. The match they had at Fastlane proved that. It was nothing but botches after botches. The singles matches before that were the worst on both Raw shows. The match with them was easily the worst on the entire pay-per-view. And even Bayley and Sasha, who are doing their best to carry that match, could not carry just the awfulness that is their in-ring ability. It's just they're too far up the card. They should not be up there. They are your nasty boy level team where they're good enough to have name recognition, but not good enough to really ever be oomphed to that next level. They're never going to be your Legion of Doom, your Heart Foundation. They're never going to be the Rock and Roll Express or any of that. They're not good enough to be that level. And they prove it over and over and over. But they still get pushed. Why could that be? Probably because one is playing 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, just swap out Kevin Bacon and put in The Rock. And the other one is the daughter of Jimmy Snuka, who the WWE goes out of their way to even talk about most of the time now, because of what he allegedly did and is looking more and more like he did as stuff comes out after his death. So they're running on legacy names, but not actually adding any value. And it's amazing. Thrilling television. Please get them off my TV. Then the last team we have is you have Natalia and Beth Phoenix, who have just reunited, but have done nothing to earn a title shot other than be a Hall of Famer and a Heart. Again, legacy is what is propelling them. But it's not like Beth Phoenix is coming back and demanding to be put into singles action where she has experience and has titles. It's kind of like The Rock coming back and going, Roman's my cousin. We're good buddies. We want to be in the title match at WrestleMania for the Raw titles. Even though I'm not a tag team wrestler. Even though there's no build. Just make it happen. That's basically what they're doing here, is Beth and Natalia. I love them both. I think Natalia deserves more than what she's been given, but she hasn't been showcased as championship level. And Beth, I don't want to see her going for the tag titles. She came in on a story that I was interested in seeing, and seeing Beth and Natalia cleaning house and getting rid of Nya Jackson and Tamina, and kind of coming in and playing that respect what you were given and show you belong on the card and all of that. I was digging that. That was a good role for her. And then Monday they just kind of swerved and went, they're a disgrace, but I don't want to wrestle them right now. I want to wrestle you for the titles instead. It didn't make any sense for her to go from, I'm only coming out of retirement because of the disrespect that these two women have shown to the division and to the name of women's wrestling in WWE, to then go, well, yeah, that's what got me out of retirement, but I don't really care about that anymore. What I want is the belts. It was a weird swerve. And I wish they didn't do it. And as much as I love Beth Phoenix, she doesn't add enough to the match to really get that Hall of Fame excitement behind it. It's not like it's a Trish or a Lita coming in who are going to be must see TV. It's Beth Phoenix. She's good. She's great. I love her. She puts on great matches, but she's not that Trish Trish Stratus, Lita level of Hall of Fame diva. And I don't feel like her and Natalia add anything to this match. They're just there. There's hasn't been enough build to make them seem worthwhile in the title picture. And then on NXT, you have Sky Pirates, who are amazing and can run circles around all of these teams in the ring. And I'm sure are going to become an integral part of the women's tag division once they get called up to the main roster and when the belts do fluctuate down to be defended on NXT. Which I'm going to guess is probably happening at the next TakeOver to hype that one up. We'll probably see some kind of feud develop there, or a friendly rivalry of they're the most deserving team of a shot kind of deal after the last interactions that the pair had with the Sky Pirates. So that's going to be an amazing match. The Sky Pirates are awesome, and I can't wait to see what they do. I think it would be awesome to see the belts change hands in NXT. That would be a huge swerve nobody sees coming. And I mean, the Sky Pirates, they're both great, and they've done great things. I mean, they're probably more experienced than a lot of the other women in this tag team division as far as being in the ring goes, with all the time they spent doing it in Japan. But I would love to see them propelled up. And I think the takeover before WrestleMania is going to be very showing of if that's happening or not. I would say if Kairi Sane or Io win the belt, and I want one of them to win the belt. I don't want Bianca to be the champion. I think Shayna's done because she's about to go to main roster. I'm definitely pulling for one of the two of them. But I feel like if they don't give it to one of them, that's a pretty good sign that they're going to be focusing on them as a tag team and not as singles competitors. But that's just my gut feeling. I think that's going to be a telling sign of how that match plays out to see what will be happening there. But we will talk about that more when I do my predictions for NXT TakeOver. So that's where the tag division's at. Is you have a team that has suffered, well, two teams that have suffered from poor booking and poor management in Riot Squad and Iconics, who should be legitimate contenders but have been made not to be. Of those two, the Iconics are currently being rehabilitated. You have Natalia and Beth that got randomly entered in and don't really add anything to the match that I feel, because Natalia's kind of been the pin girl to keep Ronda looking strong and the one taking a bunch of abuse to make Ronda look strong when she came in to clear house. So she needs rehabilitation as well. Beth has been on the shelf for years and now just suddenly came back and is kind of in this flip-floppy gimmick she's got going on. So I'm curious to see what happens with that, but not curious enough for it to happen at WrestleMania. You have Nya Jackson, Tamina, who don't belong there and are going to be out of their depth like they always are when they put them in these high-profile matches. And you have Fire and Desire, who are currently being split up for drama on Smackdown over the women's title because they forgot to book Asuka with anything. So they're doing that. So there's not a lot really going for them right now. Now, the big argument I've been seeing that kind of prompted this video is on the Thursday night edition. A lot of people are pointing to that match going, see, the Iconics don't belong in a match with Sasha and Bayley. Well, that match was only bad because of Sasha and Bayley. The biggest botch in that entire match was Peyton Royce coming off the ropes and Sasha and Bayley standing there looking like idiots and doing nothing. And then they had to redo the spot again, which looked ridiculous, and they still messed it up. Not to mention, Sasha and Bayley don't look or act like a tag team. They come out to different entrance songs. Their entire presentation feels like two single stars who were jammed together and never became a unified tag team. There's never any tag team that's had long-term success in wrestling. They're known for their long-term success because they were a unit. The Boss and Hug Connection is better known as Sasha and Bayley. It's not like the Hart Foundation, or the Legion of Doom, or the Rockers, or the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, or Edge and Christian, or the Revival. All these teams are going to be known for being a unit, and for working together, for having cohesive move sets that they could play off of each other. Whenever they try to work together, it gets bad. They do fine separately in there, but the second they try to start adding double team moves and spots where they both have to do things, you start seeing their botches. You start seeing them mess things up. You start seeing them look out of place. And that's not a good look for the champions. And we saw that the Iconics work really well together. They're a great heel team. They stole the victory, yes. But they're supposed to. That's what they do. They're being set up to be the antithesis of what the Boston Hug Connection are. For all the happy-go-lucky stars and streamers and unicorns that the Boston Hug Connection are, the Iconics are we want to be the top girls, we'll do anything to win, this is our dream, and we're going to kind of the Eddie Guerrero, lie, cheat, and steal to get it. That's who they're supposed to be. So yes, they won with an underhanded tactic, but it was a very well done tag team working together tactics to get there. And I feel like with time, we're going to see a lot more of that from them if they're given the chance to develop. And I feel like giving them a match at WrestleMania of just them versus Boston Hug would do a lot for them. Even if they lost, if they could do a strong showing, it would look good. Or if you're going to do it again, then do it as a triple threat and bring in the Riot Squad and give the last teams from the Elimination Chamber a chance to square off at WrestleMania to kind of decide who the top dog is. Or if they want to have this crazy fatal four-way, do it with the teams in the pre-show and the winning team gets put onto the main show to face Sasha and Bayley for the titles. And make it something interesting. Not just this scrap heap of, well, we killed one tag team, we've ignored the other, and we have to rebuild this one, so let's just hodgepodge this match together and hope for the best. Because that's what this title match feels like. It feels like it's a hodgepodge of things just kind of forced together. And that's sad. Because they're going to ruin these belts before they even have a chance to take off. And who wants that? Which also leads us to the next topic of looking at just the issue the WWE is going to have as the competition in women's wrestling is constantly growing. Impact has had a very solid knockouts division that has been getting a lot of buzz. Women of Wrestling on Access TV has just gotten its second season. It's getting a ton of buzz and has a ton of talent on their roster. AEW has signed a ton of talent when it comes to the women. That if they end up showcasing that, is going to do a lot to really put pressure on WWE. Shimmer has been consistently growing and doing great business all over the place and highlighting amazing women wrestling. First Wrestling just had a huge card that sold out and did good numbers from what I've gathered on iPay-per-view that was all women. WSU is doing on a comeback. Women of Honor is starting to gain a bunch of traction. Rise, with their legendary pay-per-view, they're setting all kinds of records and selling out and like the biggest women's show ever. They have more women wrestlers on it than all of Evolution had for WWE. And it's going to highlight some amazing talent that deserves to be on this bigger platform. So if the WWE wants to continue to claim this women's revolution and being the forefront of women's wrestling, they're going to have to make smarter choices. They're going to have to look at who they're pushing and decide if that's the best person in that role that the company has. Because they have a deep women's roster. If you look at NXT, if you look at the women they're not using on the main roster, if you look at NXT UK, they have a lot of great talent, but they're not showcasing that talent. The only talent that gets showcased is Charlotte, Becky, Nia Jax, Tamina, Bayley, Sasha. Those are your 6 go-tos, and you can include Ronda in there, but she's hopefully leaving after Mania, so I'm not really concerned with her, because if she's gone, and I don't really consider her integral, as the other ones are, to what they tend to frame the women's division around, tend to be those 6 as the ones that get all the pushes, get all the stories, and all the development done for them. So, of those 6, you can remove Charlotte and Becky because they deserve what they have. And they can go against the best in any of those companies, and they'd probably still stand out or still be stars if they were there, and hold their own. The other 4 that you're left with that they push on a regular basis are not going to stand out well. Their matches are going to start looking very poor when they start getting compared to people in similar roles with similar styles in other companies. And even within that, there are people within WWE that could do those roles better and more effectively and shore up the strength of this women's roster. So let's just have a little fun. Let's assume that AEW launches a TV show, that it's doing numbers and doing well, and is seen as a viable competitor to WWE. And let's see how the women of WWE would stack up with their counterparts that exist on the AEW brand. So currently, Bayley gets pushed because they tout her as one of the 4 horsewomen. She is their kid-friendly diva that they can get that young demographic with and excite them. Where Bayley has trouble is Bayley's promos suffer on the big stage. Outside of NXT, her promos are very lackluster, very nervous and hesitant sounding. Her tag work is subpar. Her singles work is strong and solid, but it's not amazing. So she's pretty much just being banked on because she gets them a bunch of merch sales for little kids. Well, in AEW, there's just this woman named Kylie Rae. She oozes personality. She's got the kid-friendly, fun personality that just is infectious. She can easily have a gimmick and character that kids are going to love. And kids are going to see her because if their parents want to check out AEW, their kids are going to watch with them. So she's going to have an audience to project this to and build fans inside of. The difference, though, is Kylie Rae is not just good in the ring, she's great in the ring. Now, we haven't seen Kylie's promos on the big stage, so the jury's still out there as if she's going to have the same problem Bayley has in comfort level amongst those bigger audiences with getting her promos across and being confident about it. But, excuse me, on all other accounts, she's better than Bayley. And I feel like if used properly, she will easily be able to cut into that slice of the pie if they were going head to head, and have people go and cause that divide. Kind of like back in the day, you had your Stone Cold and your Goldberg. They both were the bald-headed, don't care who's in front of them, run through their opposition. Some people went for Goldberg because they like just the traditional monster aspect of him. Some went for Stone Cold because they liked the didn't care, was going to kick you in the face, flip you off, and be the rebel attitude. But they were both the face of that company, and you would constantly have people arguing and debating Stone Cold versus Goldberg. And you're going to have the same thing here, but I feel like as more people watch Kylie Rae, they're going to see that she's a much better worker, performer than Bayley, because much like the WCW, who didn't protect Goldberg, the WWE doesn't protect Bayley. Her flaws are not covered, they're accentuated most of the time, because they're not worried about putting on a good show when it comes to the wrestling side of it. They're worried about the merch sales and everything else, it seems. So I feel like Kylie Rae is kind of everything that Bayley should be, but isn't. And I think that if they were going head to head, you would see a lot of people start shifting to Kylie Rae if they had to pick a favorite between the two. And parents aren't going to invest merch money in both sides. So if kids start shifting to Kylie, the money starts shifting to AEW and away from the WWE. So then you have Nyla Rose on AEW. She would be your physically intimidating, larger woman who can be that monster in the ring that can make the other girls have to work hard to find ways to bring her down, to take her out. The role that the WWE keeps assigning to Nia Jax and Tamina. But Nyla Rose is better at it. She comes across as more intimidating. Her moveset looks like it's going to hurt. And she does much better at making the people she's in the ring with look better because they beat her and not, well, yeah, they're supposed to win because it's Nia Jax. And that's where the problem is Nyla so far has not looked out of place on any of the AEW or indie shows I've seen her on. Where Nya Jackson and Tamina always seem out of place in the ring. They always look lost. They always look unsure of themselves. They always look fearful, and they don't come across as being intimidating. When Nia Jax has you in the corner and she's stomping on you, it doesn't look like it's going to hurt. It looks like she's lightly tapping her toe on the other person's shoulder a lot of the time. They're not convincing monsters. And they have Nyla Rose and Aja Kong, who AEW have, can be convincing that they can run right through you. And that's something the WWE is really lacking, is they don't have that monster. Even WoW has Jessica Havoc. If you watch a Jessica Havoc match, she is an imposing force. She is something that should be feared in the ring, but even when she's set to lose a match, she still doesn't come out looking weak because of the loss, because you went through hell and back to win that match. And she put you over in a way that you both came out looking stronger because she made you work for the win, and you had this great David and Goliath story that they told in the ring. You never get that story with Nia Jackson and Tamina. They're not storytellers. They don't know how to be that intimidating force you overcome. They're just that force everybody expects you to overcome. And then when you don't, it hurts everybody because nobody believes that Nia Jax is good enough to beat you. So they have this problem there where they have these people that they're hyping in this position that can't pull that role off, where these other companies have women in the exact same role who are convincing and can pull that role off. And then you have some of the outliers like the Mandy Roses, who I can see being very much compared to like a Penelope Ford, with that God's greatest creation gimmick, the mean girl, the I'm better than you type attitude. But Penelope Ford has the experience to back it up in the ring still. Mandy Rose is getting there, and she's gotten a ton better. I'm a huge Mandy Rose fan, don't get me wrong. She is one of the most improved, I feel, and most deserving to start getting pushed and becoming a more integral part of that women's division in the WWE. But I feel like Penelope Ford, she's just an all-around better rounded performer, but this is one of the matchups where I could see it kind of going either way and being a much closer debate on who's actually better. So I don't think Penelope Ford is that much better in the ring. I think she's a lot smoother and cleaner at times currently, but I don't think it's a big enough separation to really give you a definitive winner there. Yuka and Asuka are probably going to fill pretty much that same role in either company. And I feel like this is the one spot where the WWE really shines, is I feel like Asuka is just a more seasoned performer than Yuka is. And while Yuka puts on amazing matches, I feel like Asuka's personality, when she's allowed to have one and allowed to get that across, is a lot better and a lot more of something people would be pulled towards. We'll have to see what they do with Yuka and if that changes, but looking at where they currently are and my knowledge of both, I feel like Asuka will, for that kind of Japanese sensation, coming over to prove they're the best in the world kind of thing, which is why I feel like they'll kind of put Yuka and that face that's coming over to prove how good they are and bring their experience to that division and things like that. I feel like Asuka does it better and probably will continue to do it better for a bit. Then the big standout to me, though, that really sets a company like AEW apart, there being a competition, is Bea Priestley. Her gimmick is very different than anything the WWE has going. It's very reminiscent of Finn Balor and the Demon, where she's got the monster side that she talks about and unleashing it, and she's got the mask with the teeth and all of that. And she's not a dark character in the sense of like an Undertaker or a Su Yung or a Rosemary. But she has that dark heel edge of she's going to go in that ring and she's going to brutally beat you until she gets her way. To go along with that, she also has a very impressive in-ring moveset that sets her apart from a lot of the women in the WWE right now, as she's kind of on that cruiserweight style action that you don't really see a lot of in the women's division in the current WWE makeup. So she's a bit of a wild card to me, that if these companies were positioned in this fantasy world of being seen as equal and competitive, that could draw a lot of people in that are into that darker, more not evil, but holds no bars, is going to go into this darker place to get the job done that we don't see a lot of. I feel like the WWE could take Nikki that way, but they haven't, and she's just kind of the crazy girl, kind of more Raven than dark type character, where she's more of just the hangs out in the kind of how Raven was in WCW, where he was more of just the grunge guy that hung out in the back and then came out and kicked facing kind of deal, with the Sanity being kind of like Raven's flock and Nikki being a part of that. And then the last kind of part of this equation is Allie, who is good in ring. She's not, I wouldn't say she's top, but she's good in ring. Where Allie comes in is she tells amazing stories, and she's very good at transcending the wrestling ring with those stories, carrying them onto social media, onto YouTube videos, and building this story that you want to invest in and get to know and be a part of. I feel like in that world, she's very much like a Becky in that storytelling department. I think Becky might be a little better in ring, but as far as story goes, I feel like Becky can transcend and do that story. But I feel like the creativity that Allie brings to it could boost more people wanting to see it than Becky does, where Becky kind of goes more the old school wrestling trash talking route with it, which is a lot of fun. I love Becky, don't get me wrong, but I think the creativeness of Allie is an aspect that is really missing on the WWE side. I think a lot of that's because the women aren't given that freedom to do that. They're so micromanaged and scripted of everything that they don't have that freedom to really go out and tell a story. And if AEW keeps working as they say they are, where the wrestler gets to tell their story, I feel like Allie's going to do very well when she gets introduced to a larger audience to portray that and bring that out. So to wrap this up, I think there's a ton of talent on the WWE roster, but I don't think they're pushing the right talent to be competitive in the women's wrestling landscape as it stands today. The women that are currently at the top of the card, the only ones that I feel like deserve to be there looking at the landscape of women's wrestling, are Becky and Charlotte. The rest of them all should be that mid-card level and be something that can be built up to that in the future, but they have a lot of women waiting in the wings that could easily be pushed up quickly and fill these roles that are lacking so much on the main roster. You have Shayna Baszler, who is the better version of Ronda Rousey, who can actually wrestle, can actually cut a promo, and is convincing in the ring, and who respects the business. So you have her that can come up and quickly replace your Ronda. You have Alpha Female over in the UK. You have Viper over in the UK. The two of them could quickly be picked up and moved to the main roster to fill that monster role and just be the intimidating forces that can run through people, because they both have done that role in the past and done it very well and could do it again. You have Toni Storm, who's an amazing worker, who could easily be pushed up into that picture to feud with Becky Lynch or Charlotte and hold her own in that ring. You have Rhea Ripley over in the UK, who's also amazing, and could fill that monster heel type role. You have the Sky Pirates for the tag team. They could be pushed up to do great things as well and have the experience to do it. Zia Brookside's not far from being there. I think she could come up and be a strong competitor in that upper mid card level, and be somebody for like a Sasha and people to feud with. There's so much talent coming, slowly building up underneath, that I feel like of the 4 horsewomen, Bayley and Sasha have not developed as much as Becky and Charlotte have. They haven't continued the growth where Becky and Charlotte have consistently gotten better and better and better. We've seen Sasha and Bayley have never really progressed. They haven't gotten worse. They just haven't gotten better. And their peers have gotten better, which is making them not look as good as they did when they first came up. And that's a problem, is the WWE hasn't acknowledged that 2 of their 4 horsewomen aren't really that same caliber anymore. They don't deserve to be horsewomen. They don't deserve that kind of treatment anymore. Yes, they'll never not have that title because they were part of that initial 4 that came up. But in the current landscape of the WWE and women's wrestling as a whole, Sasha and Bayley are no longer top tier in-ring performers. Nia Jackson, Tamina never were top tier performers, but they keep getting pushed on their legacy name. And if you want to talk legacy, Tessa Blanchard is miles better than them in the ring and is worthy of all the praise she's getting and is on that level of a Charlotte for upholding legacy, where Nia Jackson, Tamina are not. Yes, they have the legacy name, but their legacy in the same way Ted DiBiase Jr. was legacy, or Curtis Axel is legacy. Their legacies, and you don't see them getting pushed. Ted DiBiase Jr. doesn't even wrestle anymore. Curtis Axel's only record claim to fame, he's like 0-265 now. So just because they're legacy doesn't mean they need to get pushed, because we see them not pushing other legacy people all over the company. So what makes these 2 worthy of being pushed when none of the others are being pushed? I think Natalia could be a top player if they rehabilitated her and let her just be the Bret Hart that she could be, of this the best there is, best there was, submissions expert, and goes that route with it. I feel like she could go up there and get there. They're talking about pushing Lacey Evans. They've already screwed that story 4 ways to the winds, and that's another video about how they can rehabilitate that at another time. Nikki Cross could be a top competitor for them if they'd let her shine, because we've seen great things. There's all these women that are so good, but the WWE just needs to start pushing them and realize that their 4 horsewomen is down to 2 horsewomen, and their other 2 big pushes of Nia Jax and Tamina aren't good enough to be on that big of a stage. But that's just one man's thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think, who you think deserves to be pushed, and things like that, and I will gladly talk about it. And hey, you might prove me wrong, and I'll admit that, but as it stands, I haven't seen anything that would prove me wrong. Now, another thing I think they should do to really fix this problem they have is they need to get rid of the SmackDown Women's title. They need to make the Raw Women's title just the women's title, put it at the top, make it the best. Then retire the SmackDown one, bring back the Diva belt with the butterfly and all, make that your next level tier, make that kind of like the Intercontinental level, and rehabilitate the Diva title as this is your up-and-coming talent. This is your strong mid-card talent fights for the Diva title, your top tier fights for the women's title, and then you have the tag teams that aren't the bottom, but they kind of are that fluctuating, depending on who holds them, is how important they're going to be to people. And give the women 3 titles that could then all have meaning across both brands. You could put the champions in different brands if you want. Let SmackDown have the Diva 1 year for a few months. Let it swap hands at Raw, things like that, so you can keep an important title on a show to keep stories going. but it would add so much value, I think, giving the women a mid-card title, because that's how the SmackDown title is being treated. And the problem right now is Asuka should be seen on par with Ronda, but they've devalued her so much that Ronda's staying up here and Asuka's basically playing a Intercontinental US champion level type person. So I feel like if they actually made the title that, then when they ignore it like they're doing, it's not going to hurt it as much as it is right now. Because right now you're saying that this belt is equal to this belt, but we're promoting this one so much that this one looks horrible now. So I feel like that could be a quick and easy solution, and it would also give them a way to push some of these people that don't belong at the top tier back down and give them something to fight over and give them some breathing room to improve. Because maybe Nia Jax is an amazing worker and we just never get to see it because she's been pushed into the title picture her whole life and she can't handle that pressure. So put her down, let her work for this lower title, and maybe she'll blossom into something that she can't while she's put under the pressure of performing at such a high level that's above her current skills cap. The thought would work, but let me know what you guys think. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest in women's wrestling and hear my opinion on it. We will be doing a prediction show later this week for the Rise pay-per-view Legendary, and then doing a live stream that night of watching it and talking about it on Twitter as we all hang out here in a YouTube live stream. But other than that, this has been Divas Dive. I'm Gary's Cook. Don't forget to like the channel, subscribe, and I will see you next time for the next episode of Divas Dive.